A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Super Foam Flying. Today, let's go ahead and literally bring out the big guns. Or should I go ahead and say XL? With the XL Boomdozer. And let me tell you, this thing really is as XL as it says to be on the sides of the blaster. And not to mention the kind of darts that it uses. Here we have the all-new XL darts, a brand new tangent from the Mega line, to show that if Mega could grow to be a very big dart, then why not go even further than that? So, I mean, this entire year has been quite a desperation factor that Hasbro has been putting up against us for actually longer than just this whole entire year. Of course, you remember when Nerf had actually been developing and releasing whole new lineups just to try and compete with their own personal libation. The kind of goals that they had set in motion don't necessarily matter as much anymore as they pretty much used to. Because with all sorts of competitors out there, like Dart Zone, Adventure Force, Buzzbee, and others that people seem to take way more seriously than anything Nerf has ever done in recent years, I can't quite be sure if this is supposed to be a surprise to myself or not. Even after all this time that I've seen all sorts of creators out there, from Coop772 to American Foam to Lord Draconical, and then of course with many other people that I've seen locally in my own area. They have both Nerf guns and they also have dart blasters from other brands. Many competitors seem to be thriving better these days, somehow, some way. But at this point in time, this is pretty much where we're at the moment. We got a whole series worth of lineups right around here pretty much. 2021 has probably been the biggest point to where Nerf is indeed trying to release as much new material as possible to try and make up for these losses that we've been accumulating in recent years. But up until this very point in time, right around here, when this video pretty much gets uploaded, you'll see when I'm talking about the date that this gets uploaded pretty much, you will see that here in the present day era, there's been a lot of stuff that Nerf has actually pulled off. I've mentioned a lot of things before. I've talked a lot of stuff, and I've pretty much been doing whatever I possibly could to try and cope with these new things. But when taking a look at the XL line, I will happily admit, at least, that these are some pretty amazing blasters altogether. They may not really be about performance, but they're more or less about gimmicks, style, color, and many other things that Hasbro does try to do than functionality and all that good stuff. Because aside from a really large pump on the bottom, as well as firing XL darts, probably not to incredible distances, because it should be worth noting that, of course, with how large these darts are compared to the standard elite darts that we've seen in a lot of blasters, it's probably no surprise that these things are not even going to come close to what we could potentially see in terms of performance with Nerf blasters. But then again, I will pretty much let you know that I've actually done 2 full seasons of Nerf Secret Reveal Distance Gauge, in which I've simply used a 100-foot long Milwaukee tool styled meter as a way to find out what kind of distance these blasters could fire up to. If you've seen my performance studies and calculations on that based on the 2023 season, then you'll pretty much get to know exactly what I'm talking about at this very point. And yeah, for the record, these are still pre-recorded things. I do want to try my best to see what kind of material I can potentially get. That's why I continue to do my work and my career. But all in all, I will say that the Boomdozer still does what it does best. As an XL blaster that honestly feels a bit more like a grenade launcher than a dart blaster by any means, I almost feel like at this point we could probably imagine the XL darts being like grenades in a way. And this blaster actually does have that kind of feel of, well, a war machine, like the kind from Black Ops 2. because it does in fact have a 6-dart cylinder that allows for 6 XL darts to be used at once. And then of course with a large pump on the bottom, it slides pretty much almost like what the Mega Centurion pulled off because of how long it is. But the kind of proportions that we've seen on the Centurion, they were pretty ridiculous at the time. But here we are, basically. A blaster that came out 8 years after that. And yet we got ourselves something that actually seems a bit more reasonable in terms of large proportional priming mechanisms. But above all that, this blaster is pretty much what you probably expect. But it does, in fact, come with a few other things as well. Like, look at the massive amounts of detail that you can see on this pretty large barrel, which is almost shaped like a bullhorn in a way. And then, of course, with the Mega XL logo pretty much coming out in a pretty nice sort of 3D print of some sorts, like a wall bust kind of thing out there. I really do like this sort of 3D embossments and engraveds that they put together. I mean, Hasbro at least tries to do a lot more to appeal to us, hardcore fans. And I really do have to admit, the kind of detail they put on this thing, plus the color scheme, they're both amazing, actually. The kind of graphic that you see on this, on the sides of the blasters. And, well, like I said, the color scheme is also pretty amazing, with black, vermilion red, ghost white, and baby blue being put all together. That's a great color scheme and all that, but I feel like that one thing that would probably make a lot of us feel better would be to have blasters that would perform a little better, because, as I've said before, going back to Distance Gauge Part 2 pretty much, from 2023, this blaster did not necessarily seem to outperform most control groups I had in terms of, well, range and all that. But on top of the impressive color scheme and nice detailing that we're seeing on the sides of the blasters, is that these blasters also have themselves a tack rail, pretty much. This one in particular has a pretty small one, which won't necessarily accommodate everything, but at least we do have one. It would have been a better idea, though, to have this thing go all the way through up until this ridged portion, which almost feels like a rival attachment would have to go up here. Because of the way that, well, it's printed. I can't really be sure of that, because I don't have rival-based accessories with me at the moment. And, like I've said before, though, this tack rail, if you wanted to have a tack rail on top, then, well, why not make the most of it? As in, why wouldn't you just put it all the way here as well, rather than it being around 3-4 inches like this? I guess we can't really make much sense of it. But this blaster also comes with a stock adapter, so just to make sure this is a Nerf blaster, you got yourself the trademark, stock adapter, and tactical rail points. But of course, no barrel adapter, because this is an XL blaster. And I can't really imagine having to see blaster attachments of any sorts being used on these other lineups. It's not like we haven't really seen any of these recently, but as in the case with some other things out there, there were the Mega line, then the Ultra line, the Rival line, and now we got this, pretty much. So, overall, I don't necessarily see a lot that should be a good thing out there to note, but the Boomdozer really is one of 3 XL blasters that I've been able to pick up and, well, pretty much talk about. Eventually, I'll get around to the others, the Big Rig and the Double Crusher. But until that happens, I'm Nowak, and this has been Super Foam Flying. Thank you very much for watching.